Assalamu alaikum students. Today's topic is place of poetry in English literature. And the objectives of this lecture are to enable students to develop an understanding about genre of poetry, get an understanding about different type of poetry. What are the elements of poetry? Some of the elements of poetry are length, visual impression, concentrated intense language that makes deliberate sound effects which can involve rhythms, rhymes, or other sounds written in lines and stanzas rather than sentences and paragraph. And deeper meaning is gleaned from understanding the use of metaphor, symbols, imagery, etc. Poetry has images, words, rhythms, meter, punctuation, couplets, and stanza. So poetry is composed by embedding the themes into various specific lines called stanza that has various kinds according to the needs of the poetry. So stanza could have following elements. That is the couplet. A two-line stanza is called as couplet. Like example, you still shall live, such virtue hath my pen, where breath most breaths, even in the mouth of men. So that is what the couplets. Couplets having two lines, a two-line stanza. Like couplets, the second one is the triplet. So triplet, a three-line stanza. So do you love me? He asked, then tend my flock. He asked it twice more, then tend my flock. I have done that for years, Lord, we need to talk. So that is a triplet in which three-line stanza is included in a poem. Now the third one is quatrain. So quatrain, a four-line stanza. You have better known about these lines. Humpy Dumpy sat on a wall. Humpy Dumpy had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. So you all know about Humpty Dumpty. The next one is Quintet. So Quintet, a five-line stanza, and that five-line stanza's content that is actually taken from Robert Frost's poem "The Road Not Taken." Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both, and be one traveler long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. So that's Quintet. Sestet, a six-line stanza, and that is Sestet, a six-line stanza that is actually taken from Elizabeth Brett borrowings. How do I love thee? So, how do I love thee? Let me count the ways. I love thee to the depth and breadth and height my soul can reach when feelings out of sight. For the end of being and ideal grace, I love thee to the level of every day, most quiet need by sun and candlelight. So that's a sestet, that's six-line stanza. So as to septet, that's a seven-line stanza. That example is taken from Edgar Allan Poe's Annabel Lee. So when we talk about the elements of poetry, and one of the element of poetry is the stanza, and how that stanza is being written, that is being written in different styles, and that is actually based on five styles on which you can have a line or stanza of two lines, of three lines, of four lines, five lines, six lines, or seven lines stanza. Now, another is rhythm. So, rhythm is actually sound that results from a line of poetry. So, rhythm is the pattern of stressed and unstressed syllables in a line. Another is meter. So meter is the number of feet in a line. It is a combination of stressed and unstressed syllables. So when stressed and unstressed syllables are there, that is called as meter. Meter is the definitive pattern established for a verse such as iambic pentameters. It is often scanned based on the arrangement of poetic feet into lines. What is iambic pentameters? It contains 5 feet per line, in which predominant kind of foot is the iamb. And the second one is Dactylic hexameter. So dactylic hexameter, it has 6 feet per line as compared to the iambic parapentameter where it's 5 feet per line. So 6 feet per lines, of which of the dominant kind of foot is the dactyl. So that is the meter which is included in a poem, and that is also one of the element of a poetry. The next element of poetry is rhyme. So rhyme consists of identical hard rhymes or similar soft rhyme sound placed at the end of lines or at predictable locations within lines. So when working with rhymes, you should always remember that the most important part of verse is the last word. So the last word of each verse is what established the rhyme. Like twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are, up above, words so high, like a diamond in the sky. So when you talk about the last words in a verse, so the last word of each verse is what establishes the rhyme. So rhyme schemes, that's A B B. First two star are high sky. So that is what the rhymes is, and that is another element of poetry. The next element is theme. So what the poet wants to express through his words may either be a thought, feeling, an observation, a story, or an experience. That is called the theme. And every poetry has some type of theme also. The next is symbolism. So visual substances and themes to express the deep hidden meanings behind the words is called as symbolism. So use of symbolism gives a more reflective empathy to the poem. So based on symbolism, one considers himself in this same situation as what situation actually prevails or what situation is actually written in those lines. So when reader read out the poems, the reader feels himself as the same is happening with him or herself. That is what the reflection of empathy. The next is imagery. So imagery, a poet must stimulate the imagination. He or she has to use a language that creates mental pictures or images. And imagery, how much type of imagery are there in a poem? Like there are 5 type of sensory images: visual to the sense of sight, gustatory to the senses of taste, auditory to the senses of hearing, olfactory to the senses of smell, and tactile to the senses of touch. So these are some of the imageries that a poem has. So poem has different type of elements, and we have discussed most of the elements in our slides. अजीज तलबा, उम्मीद है कि इस टॉपिक के अंदर कवर किए गए तमाम सवालात के बारे में आपको समझ आ गई होगी। अब नए सेशन में नए टॉपिक के साथ दोबारा से मुलाकात होगी। तब तक के लिए मेरी तरफ से अल्लाह हाफिज़। अल्लाह आप तमाम का हामी और नासर हो।